It was a Tuesday in March 2019. Marcus Webb was sitting in a plastic chair in the waiting area of a Firestone on Route 35 in Dayton, Ohio, watching a loading bar move across his phone. He was selling his Bitcoin. He needed 4 new tires. The total with labor came to $487. He had 0.8 Bitcoin. He didn't know it yet, but he was selling what would become $80,000. Marcus was 37 years old. While he worked the day shift at a regional distribution warehouse on the east side of Dayton, 12-hour days, steel-toed boots, a handheld radio clipped to his belt. He drove a 2011 Ford F-150 with 140,000 miles on it. The truck was paid off. He kept it maintained mostly. He liked things that were finished, things that didn't carry a balance. He rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Kettering, 15 minutes from work, $620 for his half. His girlfriend covered the other half, but he had $340 in his checking account the morning the mechanic called. He wasn't reckless with money. He paid his bills on the first of the month, kept a spreadsheet, rarely ate out. He had no savings account. He just never got around to opening one. In the fall of 2017, a coworker spent 3 lunch breaks explaining Bitcoin to anyone who would listen. Marcus listened. He put in $2,560, overtime money that had been sitting in checking, but doing nothing. He bought 0.8 Bitcoin at roughly $3,200 each. By December 2017, Bitcoin was near $20,000. His $2,560 was worth almost $16,000 on paper. He didn't sell. He didn't know how to sell. Then it dropped. By February 2018, Bitcoin was below $7,000. Marcus stopped checking the app. Now he figured the money was probably gone. He filed it away under things that didn't work out. If you want to see where that kind of patience ends, and what one afternoon in a tire shop costs, here's what I ask. Subscribe. Drop a like if this one already feels familiar. Tell us in the comments, have you ever sold something long-term just to cover a short-term bill? Back to Marcus. By March 2019, Bitcoin had recovered to just above $8,000. Marcus's 0.8 coins were worth $6,417. He'd put the money there to do something, then forgot what he was holding. There's a particular kind of danger in forgetting what you're holding. The inspection notice came in February. The truck's tires had worn past the legal threshold. 2 of them were showing cord. The mechanic said they had been driving on borrowed time. The cheapest set that fit the F-150 ran $420 for 4 tires. With labor and disposal fees, the total came to $487. The truck had to pass inspection by the end of the month, or it would be off the road. Marcus had $340 in his checking account. He had 1 credit card, a Capital One at 22.9% APR. He'd paid it off 18 months ago. He had not touched it since. He did not want to touch it now. He sat with the math for 2 days. He could put the tires on the card and pay it off next month. The interest would cost maybe $15. He knew this. He also knew it wasn't about the $15. There was something about carrying a credit card balance that Marcus couldn't separate from the feeling of falling behind. He'd watched his parents carry balances for years. It was a texture he recognized and hated. He opened the Coinbase app. His 0.8 Bitcoin was showing $6,417. He had put in $2,560 2 years ago, but he was up more than $3,800, a 149% return on money he had essentially forgotten about. He remembered December 2017, The number had been $15,960. He'd watched it fall from there for 14 months straight. He had no idea what Bitcoin was going to do next. Nobody did. He thought about taking the full $6,417, paying for the tires, and putting the rest in savings. That actually made sense. It would clear his head. It'd get the truck legal and give him a real cash buffer for the first time in years. He'd heard Bitcoin could drop back to $3,000. He'd heard it could reach $50,000. He'd heard both in the same week from different people. The expert range was wide enough to contain every possible outcome. He decided he would sell, not because he was panicking, not because he needed the money desperately, but he decided because the math was clean and the truck needed tires, and he was tired of watching a number go up and down without understanding why. On March 12, 2019, Marcus opened Coinbase on his lunch break and entered a sell order for 0.8 Bitcoin. The transaction processed at $8,021.50 per coin. He received $6,417.20, minus $38.50 in platform fees. Yet he used $487 for the tires. He put $2,000 in savings, the first real deposit he'd ever made into the account. The remaining $3,891 went toward overdue bills, groceries, and a weekend he doesn't mention. The truck passed inspection. The new tires were solid and quiet. He drove home on Route 35 with the windows down, and the whole thing felt resolved. Practical. Finished out. Well, he was good at finished. He never considered buying back in. Bitcoin at $8,000 felt like a ceiling to him. He'd already watched it fall from $20,000 once. The money was patient. He had already decided he wasn't. In 2019, roughly 14% of American adults had held cryptocurrency at some point. Of those who had sold, the median exit price was below the asset's 5-year peak. Most people left before the top. Mount Bitcoin opened 2020. He had $7,200. Marcus noticed the number in passing. He was still technically ahead of where he'd sold. That felt like confirmation. He filed it away as such. By July 2020, Bitcoin was at $9,100. Marcus checked the app out of habit, the account he no longer had anything in. He saw the number, closed the app, and made dinner. In October 2020, Bitcoin crossed $13,000. But Marcus was working a double shift that week. He found out from Darnell, who texted him a screenshot. He didn't respond. There wasn't much to say. By the first week of January 2021, Bitcoin was at $34,000. Marcus's 0.8 coins would have been worth $27,200. He kept that number in his head for a few days. Then he stopped keeping it. In February 2021, Bitcoin crossed $50,000 for the first time. But the number was everywhere. Financial news, morning radio, the television in the break room at the warehouse. Marcus walked past it without stopping. On April 14, 2021, Bitcoin hit $64,863. It was briefly the most discussed asset in the country. Marcus Webb's 0.8 Bitcoin would have been worth $51,890. He had used the money to buy tires. This is the part that's difficult to document without feeling something. Because the tires were real. And the $340 in the checking was real. The mechanic wasn't making it up. Marcus made a decision with exactly the information he had, and the cost of that decision turned out to be $51,890. Darnell sold his Bitcoin in March 2021, took his profit at $58,000, and bought a used pickup. He didn't look back. He called it a win. At the warehouse, it was a good story for about a week. By 2022, Marcus needed new tires again. The set from 2019 had worn down. He priced them at the same Firestone. $512 this time, labor included. He put them on the card. That seemed fine. He paid the card off in 3 months. The interest came to $18.40. He got the receipt and looked at it for a moment. Then he put it in the glove box with the inspection sticker. There is no version of this story where Marcus makes a dramatically different choice with what he knew. Yet he had a truck that needed tires, $340 in his account, and an asset he had forgotten he owned. The math was straightforward. The reasoning was sound. Most people with $340 in their checking and $487 in tires due would make the same call. The only thing that separates this story from 1,000 others is the number on the other side of it. Think about what you would have done. Marcus Webb is 42 years old. He is still at the distribution warehouse, senior shift supervisor now, a modest raise since 2019. The radio is still on his belt. He still lives in the Kettering apartment. His girlfriend moved out in 2022. He covers the full rent now, $1,380 a month. He still keeps the spreadsheet. He doesn't have any cryptocurrency. He looked at Bitcoin in early 2023, when it was trading around $23,000. He thought about it for a few days. He didn't open an account. The $2,000 he deposited in March 2019, that savings account has $4,200 in it now. It took 5 years to build. He is proud of it in the way people are proud of small, certain things. He doesn't talk about the Bitcoin much. Darnell brought it up at a work barbecue in 2022, when it was back above $40,000. Marcus nodded once and went to get another drink. He doesn't blame the tires. He doesn't blame himself. There's a steadiness to how he describes it. Not quite acceptance, more like a man who has placed something into a category labeled already happened. In late 2024, Bitcoin crossed $100,000 for the first time. His 0.8 coins would have been worth $80,000. And he was working a double shift that week. He saw the headline on a coworker's phone during break. He looked at it for about 4 seconds. Then he went back to work. There was a shipment coming in on the overnight, and someone needed to sign for it. That was the thing in front of him. The Coinbase account is still active. He logged in once in 2023 just to check. The balance showed 0. The transaction history was all there. The date, the amount, the confirmation number. March 12, 2019. 0.8 Bitcoin. $6,417.20. The tires cost $487. The rest is arithmetic, the kind that stays the same no matter how many times you run it. This wasn't the only time this happened. Between the app and the account and the tires, a version of this story plays out somewhere every day. Different amounts, different assets, different reasons that all felt completely logical at the time. The truck needs new tires again. It made sense at the time.